meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee. Firstly, can I welcome those new members who are with us this evening. I apologise for not being there, but my wife's brought me on a family holiday, so I apologise. So, when I'm there next time, we'll have a quick chat. And great to see colleagues from Audit Wales and from our audit team, so that's great. Don, you may need to be an orchestrator here because I can't see everyone on the screen, but if we go quickly then to the agenda, item 1 of the agenda is apologies for absence.
No apologies, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 2 on the agenda is declarations of interest. No one declared any? Okay. Item 3 on the agenda is the minutes of the meeting of our last meeting, and they are for correctness only. Are there any comments? If there aren't any comments from the chamber, I've just got a couple. The minutes make reference to recommendations, and they should actually all be resolutions, except for minute 8.17, which is correct. It says resolve, but all the rest says recommendations. They should all be resolutions. So if that could be amended, please. And the other just slight error is in the minutes. It's minute 5.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5. It should be Sarah Jane Byrne. It's Jane. So it's just in regards to our colleague from Audit Wales. So it's just to pick that up. If there aren't any other comments, then if I move someone to move that they are a correct record subject to those amendments.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. They're carried. Anyone against? Thank you. They're carried. Next one is the housing benefit sub-audit. Thanks to Myrian for bringing this report to us, which was following last committee's meeting. It came out of that. So I don't know whether Myrian's in the chamber. If he is, over to you, Myrian.
Myron's off today, Chair, so unfortunately you've got me, it's Reese. And
oh, well, that'll do, Reese, you carry on.
So look, I'm just going to quickly run through this. I was on leave for the last meeting, so this is an update report just to talk about the issues within housing benefits and the specific issues with the claim, and an update on what's been going on at the moment and the improvements being made over that period of time. If there are any technical questions, I've got Paul McCarthy here with me who can try to respond to some of those. So very, very quickly just to run through. So the issue was around, raised in the last committee, I believe, around the increased audit fees in association with the DWP claim for housing benefits. And within the report, what that gives is the difference between the 2020-21, 21-22 audit fees for Newport compared to the Wales average, and you can see that Newport's was above the Wales average, and that was a result of issues found with the 2021 audit and the technicalities around the requirements around that audit. So when issues are found within those audits, that results in increased checks for following years. So that's where those have come from. I'm sure if any questions specifically around those, Paul might be able to answer those. The specific issues in relation to the claim, so missing proof of occupancy for emergency and temporary housing claims, incorrect tenancy type used, miscalculation of overpayments, incorrect bed and breakfast rates used, incorrect number of bedrooms used in calculations, and incorrect tax credit and pensions income errors. And there's an explanation within the report for each of those areas. The mitigation around that was obviously these were related to a specific period in time around the pandemic. So a lot of the issues around the requirement from Welsh Government, the everybody in policy during the pandemic to make sure that people who sleep in ref were in accommodation, and the approach taken in order to facilitate that. And then the ongoing pressures within Newport, and you have a table in there on page 26 which shows the number of temporary households currently within Newport, which is the second highest rate in Wales. So significant pressures on the team, and those issues around actually prioritising getting people into accommodation, and that unfortunately meant an increase in errors. Within the report, then, you've got a series of changes that have been made within that service in order to make improvements around the audits, and they have been improvements as a result of that, and a reduction in errors. Those have been starting with actually a restructure, so that team has now moved into finance, hence Myron picking up the report on this. Some additional resources in there, some changes to the systems and processes, and some use of tech in order to remove the requirement for multiple entry of data and to remove those errors. And Audit Wales are on the call. I know Helen's on you, and she may be able to say whether that's shown any improvements over the last couple of years or this year specifically. I know we're still in the midst of the audit. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. But either myself or Paul, happy to take any questions that we can possibly answer.
Thanks. Thank you for that, Rhys. I didn't know whether Helen's got any comments before I ask any questions, if anyone's got any questions.
Chair, I'll just come in if that's okay.
Yep.
So our 22-23 audit is coming to a completion now. There is an improvement on prior years, we're pleased to say. There has been less identification of overpayment errors. There are still errors in the system, but that is expected because these changes and improvements will take a while to filter through into the financial years, and obviously we're still looking at 22-23 at the moment. So we're working with the council to report on that shortly, so hopefully you'll have that in the autumn now.
Lovely, thanks, Helen. Okay. Obviously the table that's in the report shows Newport going in the right way, and the Welsh average, I think, going up. So Newport coming down, Wales going up. So it's pleasing to see that Newport are going on the right track. We're not there yet, clearly, but it's going the right way. Are there any questions from anyone? Don?
Thanks, Chair. Question for you, Rhys. I'm sure Paul will answer. Going back to the chart on page 26, where you've got, like Cardiff, Newport, and I think I've looked at these numbers, and if you look at and I'm assuming though these figures come from Audit Wales, the national figures of these. Would that be the first instance? Okay. Right. Okay. If from just delving down, the number of households in places like Cardiff, we've got like 123,000, and if there's some information available on the internet. When you start dividing that, it looks in Swansea, in comparison to the number of temporary households, they've got 1 in 412. Is actually, temporary. In Cardiff, it's 1 in 76, and then when you come to Newport, it's 1 in 120, and that's quite staggering. So, whilst on the table, it looks like 471, Newport's got way above the average and dealing way above. Would that be correct rationale?
I think our homelessness team are best placed to answer that, but yeah, in terms of our caseload and the amount of properties which have been taken on and are filtered through the housing benefit, then yes, huge numbers. Probably talking, going back about 5 years, there were about up to 20 temporary accommodation properties that we deal with. Now we're talking over 80, and most of those are houses of multiple multiple occupation as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, the numbers have increased dramatically.
Okay, Reece, if I put that question, could you, at some stage, could you just come back and clarify? Because I think my rationale and my logic is correct, and I just think it says that the team have got a massive workload, and it's a lot more complicated. And when they're having to deal with 4 times the number of cases that, say, Swansea are having to deal with, there's going to be mistakes and there's going to be errors that happen just because of volume.
Yeah, it isn't necessarily Paul's department, but I'll ask David Walton and his team if they can unpack some of those figures, just so you've got a bit more context for it. I think what the report picks up is it is a significant amount of pressure. We've made structural changes and we've made system changes in order to try and manage that better, because obviously we need to make this as correct as we possibly can. And it was pleasing to hear what Helen had to say about the improvements of that's creating.
Thanks, Reece. Thanks, Don. I don't know whether there are any other questions in the chamber.
Norma's got her hand up, Gareth.
Thank you, Don. Norma?
Following on from what my colleague Don just raised, I think there's a need for some explanations, because I understand that it's a huge volume and there's a lot of pressure on the team, but it's really getting a hand on it, really. In paragraph 8, we talk about transactions, but we don't actually know how many transactions. I know we've got 7,500, I think, benefit claimants. So it's knowing how many transactions we're talking about and the percentage of errors. The explanation we've got, I think, is a bit too vague. You know, the explanation is errors incorrect or miscalculation. But that idea of the volume, we can't really make a judgment.
So we'd have to get back to you with actual figures of
That would be helpful, I
certain
think.
types of errors,
Yeah.
I mean, the overpayment.
It's just so that we got a feel in terms of the percentage, because if you've got a huge number and it's a low percentage, you think, okay. But if you're still getting a higher percentage, I think, the Audit Committee must have some concerns. So just so that we can have a feel for that.
Yeah. That's fine. That we can provide you some additional information about the number associated with those, and it's probably quite important to look at that as well, because if you look at it, one of the things that were picked up in the audit was around incorrect number of bedrooms used in the calculations. That was one property.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of the others would be multiple things, because my understanding of it is an incredibly complicated process in order to facilitate those claims.
Yeah.
There's different volumes of error in each different cell. One of the biggest errors that we've had is incorrect rates, which are above the subsidy cap, which make no difference to the amount we claim in subsidy, but it just takes that extra bit of time. And this is going back to all the amount of properties we use now. They all have different rates, so it's not like you can use the same rate across the board.
No, of course, I understand. Yeah, I understand. Thank you, sir. Along the same vein, really, it was in paragraph 28, we refer to a significant number of errors reduced, but we don't know what that significant number is. I think, it's actually giving the committee something a bit more substantive, so we get a real feel in terms of how we've progressed in there. That's all, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks, Norma. I think clearly picking up those points, if Paul or Reece can organise for that information to be provided to members after the committee, and obviously if there are any other issues, then we can bring it back in due course. But I think Reece has given the assurance that he can get the team to look at that. We can be circulated with that information in due course. Are there any other questions? No one showing. Any comments? Don?
Yeah. I just wanted to make a couple of comments. One is like in the report where it talks in terms of you took a pragmatic approach during the pandemic. Yeah. And I just want to say, thank you, because right thing to do. And even if you are getting slight stick for it now, it's still the right thing to do. And if that caused errors, yeah, okay. But for me, I just wanted to make a comment and say thank you for doing that. The other comment I just wanted to say is that reading the report and some of the direction of travel where you're going in terms of getting standardized rates and that's brilliant. Yeah. And I think because it is so complicated and these things do change. And for me, my comment would be that the people who you're dealing with who are running these accommodations are difficult people to deal with at times, and they're not always coming forth in the paperwork. So seeing what you've implemented to cause the claims to actually, not become errors, that's to be applauded. That's me finished, Gareth.
Thank you, Don. No, thank you very much for those compliments. Obviously, I'm sure the officers will appreciate that. Are there any other comments? If there are no other comments, there's no recommendation, but the recommendation I suggest is that committee notes the contents of the report, and obviously if Rhys can provide the documentation after the meeting in the next couple of weeks, that would be great. So someone prepared to move that we note the contents of the report? Thank you, Don. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Norma. Anyone against? No, that's carried. Thank you very much. Paul, I don't know whether you want to leave the chamber. You're quite happy to do so. You don't have to stay.
Okay, thanks very much.
That's okay. Thanks very much for your input. Greatly appreciated.
Right.
Item 5 of the report is statement of accounts. Is that Laura? Or...
Yeah, thank you, Chair. That's me.
Good. I thought I saw your nameplate, so...
yeah. So the set of accounts which are presented to the Governance and Audit Committee today are the draft set of accounts for 23-24. And whilst the statutory deadline is still the 31st of May, Welsh Government wrote to all local authorities to set out their expectation that the accounts were prepared by the 30th of June, and the Council met that deadline. Audit Wales were given a copy of the draft accounts on the 1st of July, and the audit has already begun and will continue over the following months. So once that audit has been completed, it's expected that the committee will be presented with a final set of accounts for approval by the end of November. So there were no new accountancy standards that were adopted within the 23-24 accounts. The Council chose not to adopt the IFRS 16 for leases until the mandatory date of the 1st of April 24. And there was also little in the way of technical accounting changes that we also needed to reflect in the statement of accounts as well. We also received all members' declarations this year, so I'd like to extend my thanks to the Democratic Admin team for their help in chasing that. We are also required to consolidate Cardiff City Capital Region deal accounts. However, as at the 31st of June, we had not received those, so we will consolidate those for the final set of accounts. And these accounts do also not include the annual governance statement, and this is included as a separate agenda item later on after this for the committee to review, and comments will also be included. So between the issuing of the draft set of accounts and the final set of accounts, we'd like to ask the committee to provide any comments that they have or any questions. And if there's anything that you'd like to feed back or discuss, then please send that back to the finance team. And if so, we'd like to ask the committee to send any comments, questions or queries by the end of August. It's also been suggested that to provide an additional level of review, there's going to be a session in September then as part of the committee so that you can ask us any questions, and again that will form an additional review. It will be held in September, although I think that's still to be arranged, so that any queries or any comments as a result of that can be fed back into the final statement of accounts. So, happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Laura. I think what you just said is very important. Obviously, these accounts will go to other places within the council, but clearly for us, I think it's essential, as you say, that we provide any feedback that we may wish to have, apart from the committee meeting this evening. But if there are any other questions or comments or clarification we have, is that we can make contact with yourself for Marion, and take those to yourselves by the 31st of August. And I think having taken that into consideration, then a session in September would also be extremely useful, as you've said. So I think not all is lost here, is that there are a couple of occasions when we can put some constructive feedback in if it's needed. So thank you for that. That's very useful. Any questions, anyone? No one showing any questions? Is there any? Oh,
Chair,
is that you, Norma?
Chair, can I just be clear? Because my understanding is that because I have a couple of questions, any questions that we have should simply be emailed to the team for answer rather than in this forum. Is that right, Rhys? Yeah? Okay. Because I have a number of questions, so I'll just email them through. Okay.
You could either ask them this evening, Norma, if you wish, but if you've got a series of them, then obviously, you'll get the same response presumably from Laura if she needs to do some research, or Myrian, and then which gives them some time to look at them. And then obviously we have another session in September, which I would hope that all the questions you've posed have been clarified, and we take those further forward if needed.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think my questions are about clarification as well. I think things could be a little clearer perhaps in the draft report.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gareth, can I ask one question? I know you won't need to do any research on this. Okay. Cardiff Capital Region. Are they breaking any rules by not being late? Are they, because I picked up, because I'm stealing a bit of Gareth's thunder, but I did a bit of research after it, and there's quite a few people who are asking, why are Cardiff Capital Region late? And they're holding up quite a few councils. I was just wondering, is this normal?
This isn't the first year that they've not been able to get us their draft set of accounts by our standard, our deadline. I think in terms of legislation, as long as they're able to state that they're not able to send through their accounts, as long as it states that they're able to do that. But that is actually something I will have to check.
Okay, sorry.
Don, you did steal my thunder there. Laura, do you know if the accounts have been signed off for last year? Not this year, but last year? Because my understanding is they're still outstanding.
Apologies, Chair, I will have to check that.
Yeah, if you could, because I know, obviously, one of my other councils keep asking for them, and we keep getting told that they've not been signed off yet. Helen, can you assist, or?
Yeah, I was just going to say they are nearing completion, I believe. I haven't got a date for that because I'm not involved in that audit itself. But yeah, we do know that there's lots of councils waiting for those figures, so it is being worked through. And as soon as they are closed, the 23-24 accounts are ready to go almost. They're just waiting for those brought forward figures then. So.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other questions or from anyone? If there aren't any, are there any comments? I think I'd obviously endorse the point certainly that Norma and anyone else, if you've got any questions or comments or require clarification on the accounts, can you please let Laura and the team know sooner rather than later? Don't leave it until the 31st of August. And again, hopefully that when that session's set up in September, any other outstanding issues that there may well be can be dealt with at that session. So I think there's ample opportunity in regards to raising issues on these draft set of accounts. So if there aren't any other questions, the recommendation is to note the draft accounts for 23-24 and obviously to provide any points of clarification, any questions, etc., to the Section 151 officer and his team by the 31st of August 2024. So, someone prepared to move, please? Thank you, Norma. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Jason. Anyone against? No, thank you very much. Thank you, Laura, for that. We're on to the next item, which is item 6, the annual governance statement. Is that you again, Laura?
No, it's me, Chair again.
Oh, right, Rhys.
I really do need to not approve head of service leave during governance and audit committee meetings. It's all my own fault. So we're here to present the draft. It's important to say that, the draft annual governance statement. As Laura has already said, this needs to be included with the final statement of accounts. And this is a requirement for us to undertake each year in line with the Accounts and Audits regulations. So what we need to do is look at how we are exercising our functions effectively, using our resources economically, efficiently and effectively, and ensuring that the governance is effective to achieve the above. And in order to do that, we use the Delivering Good Governance in Local Government framework, and we measure ourselves against 7 criteria, which are in the report on page 158. I won't read them out because we'll be here for some time to do that. So what we've done within this is obviously look back at last year. We've looked at a range of evidence which is detailed within the report, so that we can assess ourselves against that, and then we've broken it down by those seven criteria in the report for simplicity. And what we've done within it is a bit different. So we've taken feedback from previous years on this, and what we've looked at is what the principle is, what the arrangements we have in place to meet that, the strengths and or improvements that we've made during the last year, and then the actions we need to undertake in this now upcoming financial year. So we've ended up, as a result of that, with 32 actions that we'll monitor and report to committee on during the course of the year. Paul, I'm not sure if there's anything you want to add to that, or if not, happy to take comments, questions here tonight.
Thanks, Reece. Paul, do you need to add anything?
No, Chair. We're happy to take questions from the committee.
Okay, thanks. Okay, you've got the report for you. Are there any questions? Norma?
Chair, I've got questions and comments. I appreciate the work that's gone into this, and I understand it's a really big piece of work. However, my main concern was the strengths are identified, but no weaknesses are listed. So it's very difficult for the reader to see where the evidence base is for the actions. So you think, okay, so we're going to be doing this under Principle A or B, but where is the weakness that's identified the need for their action? Because it needs to flow through so the reader actually understands, all right, we've got some strengths, but we've actually got some weaknesses. In order to do these weaknesses, we are doing this. And that's, to me, is a fundamental problem with this. I probably raised this before. And I think it needs to be clear how the actions are directly supporting the principles and the sub-principles, because it's not always clear. When I'm reading it, I think, well, how does that action actually support, behaving with integrity, etc.? It's not always clear. But anyway, that's my general comment. If I go to the actions under various principles, I was quite interested in, I don't know whether it's within the purview of this committee, but under C, defining outcomes, what was the feedback from the challenge reviews? Because I don't think as a committee we've had that information, and I don't know whether it's relevant that we shouldn't. No. I mean, if it was relevant anyway, it would be their performance challenge reviews. It would be relevant to the performance committee, right. Scrutiny committees. Under determining interventions, which was D, I wasn't particularly assured, and this was on page 178, by the phrase optimising achievement of intended outcomes. What does that mean?
That's a SIPFA principle, so we haven't.
Oh my gosh!
We haven't set these. Okay. These are set by SIPFA, so we go by their guidance
and their
and
words
rules
that they give you. Is that right?
Yeah, this is based upon the guidance which is provided by SIPFA.
And then on developing the entity's capacity, which was E, asset rationalisation, I wasn't clear what is actually going on. I mean, I've asked questions along these lines before in committee meetings. We're told there is a plan in place, but I haven't got any assurance, and this comes up when I look at the accounts as well. There's no real assurance for us as a committee in terms of the actions and the outcomes from the asset rationalisation.
Can I just come in on there, Chair? Okay, that would be Performance Scrutiny Committee, Place and Corporate, which Councillor Howell's chair, I believe.
Right, okay, but it comes to us under the annual governance statement, and it also comes to us under the financial annual report as well. So, you know, we're trying to sort of join up dots here.
Yes, but your role as a committee is about ensuring is about an assessment of assurance of the governance arrangements we have in place. The Strategic Asset Management Plan sits elsewhere within that governance arrangement.
Right, okay. But we're also asked to approve the governance statement and the accounts.
And most of the things that lead to both of those things do not come to this committee.
Right, okay.
Yeah, no, Norman, I think there needs to be some clarity here on the basis that I have this argument in other committees where I belong, and actually we get the information on the basis that as a committee, what we can actually say is this doesn't give us the assurance that the annual governance statement or the audit of accounts meets the requirements. So therefore, we're not going to give that assurance, which then causes, obviously, the council a problem. And I think, whilst none of us are members, or the 3 independent members, not members of any other committee, then any information that we require that satisfies the requirement that the assurance is there, the information should be provided. Because otherwise, you know, obviously, you know, if it went to a vote, it's a matter for the members and the independent members to decide what it says. But if the assurance isn't there because it's been to another committee, and another committees in lots of authorities, we just say, no, we haven't got the assurance. So therefore, all the information you've asked for, or the assurance we need, needs to be brought before the committee. So I understand what Reece says in some respects. But actually, if we say, or someone, you know, when the independent, well, we haven't got the assurance that this is right or correct. We're not looking at how it's been formatted or whatever. We're looking at, you know, the detail is how we got where we got. Then we could cause it could cause a problem for us. And I would welcome some indication in regards to what will happen if actually, Norma, you said I'm not assured. In regards to this matter, you know, I'm not happy to approve it because actually I haven't got the assurance on it, which would cause then a problem. So it's making sure this committee's got the right information before it to make the decision.
We're going to have to be really clear then about what you're defining that as, because I'm just looking at that one section. You've picked on asset rationalisation. Do you also want to review the wellness of work policy? Because that's in there. Do you also want to look at the people plan? Because that is also in there as are those parts of the assurance. They go to scrutiny committees. There's no issue with us putting the links into those reports and where they've gone to the committees, because that should give you assurance that they've been to a committee and have been reviewed. So we can go through this and put the links in, Chair, to when those specific things have been to those committees.
Yeah, I think, Reece, what's required is again, and again, you know, I'm not a lawyer to the committee, but all the background papers which relate to this issue should actually be in the report in any event. So they shouldn't come as an add-on extra. They should actually be in there. So I think it may be worthwhile at some stage outside this meeting is to sit down and decide, you know, where the right information is, and you know. If Nor or any member of the committee wishes to raise issue, it can be pointed to, as you quite rightly said, it's gone to this committee, it went to this committee on this date, then obviously someone can look it up and see where it is. So, you know, I think it's just the process that we need to ensure that committee is given that assurance.
Okay, I think we need to be careful, because if we include all of the background papers, this will be hundreds and hundreds of pages long. So hence my comment about putting the link in, as you said, put the date in when it was discussed and the link into when I went to the scrutiny committee, because that will be on the website then for anybody to look at.
Yeah, put the hyperlink in or whatever, you know.
We can do that. That's not an issue.
The other issue, Reece, I was going to say is, in regards to this, we don't have to sign it off tonight. We agree it in draft, and again, we could pick it up presumably as part of the process in September because it accompanies the accounts. Yeah,
absolutely. It just needs to be signed off at the point at which we do the statement of accounts. Chair, just to pick up on the other points that Norma picked up then about the weaknesses, I think I'll talk to Paul and Sean outside of this, but I think my suggestion to that is what areas actions have been identified for improvement. That essentially is that bit. So we'll include what the weakness was we identified and how we identified it, and then the action that we're doing to identify against that weakness. Because I think I'll just make it. I think that's a relevant point. We had a very similar conversation about the strengths and improvements about how we showed that. So we can pick that up.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Reece. I think that would be, that would certainly enhance, wouldn't it? And as long as everyone's got the information to make the decision, I think we can move forward. And if quite right, if Norma's got some very specific points, then, if Norma raises them, apart from in this committee now, when she does a response in regards to the draft statement of accounts and say, look, I've got the points on this annual governance statement and say what they are, then obviously people can point to them and, we can get the information. And then if there is clarification after, we can pick them up in September. So I think it's that organic process to get where we need to in the right time frame. Mark Howells, Councillor Howells.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just didn't want to pick up sort of specific points within the report, but just on some of the points Reece made, because some of these things do come to the scrutiny committee that I chair. But for example, on that page 179 that we were discussing there, we got sort of what arrangements do we have in place to support this? And the first line there is regular check-ins for all staff as part of managing employee performance. But what we know from the committee that I attended on Monday and chaired on Monday is actually we're not meeting our targets for that in all service areas. So I would have expected to see an action to improve that as being on this. So and in terms of the Asset Rationalisation Board and Strategic Asset Management Group, whilst we've been informed that those meetings are taking place to look at that, we haven't had an outcome from it as yet. So again, I would have expected that to carry forward as an action for that work to complete. So my gut feeling is there is still a bit of work to do in this, both in terms of linking the progress on some of the stuff for 23-24 and making sure that those things that still haven't been completed or still need improvement carry forward as actions for next year as well.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Chair, sorry to jump in there. I think Councillor Reynolds had his hand up as well. But I suppose just to come in there, so again, similar thing. Some of these things are picked up in service plans and service planning reviews, right? So they will come through scrutiny as well. So we'll pick those up in a similar way. As far as the assets is concerned, scrutiny has pretty recently signed off the Strategic Asset Management Plan. So that's the defining document about what we do with our assets. So there's an operational work associated with that. So that has gone through the scrutiny arrangements, but we'll take the point. We'll go back through and have a look at various things and where they've gone at what point.
Thank you for that, Reece. You did mention, no, I apologise because I don't know your name. Now, my apologies. So.
No problem, Chair. My name's John Reynolds. I'm one of the elected members.
Councillor Reynolds, welcome and carry on.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Well, I was going to start by saying I am new to this committee, so it's really picking up on what Councillor Howells was saying and also what Reece has just been saying as well. I am new to this committee, so I'm sort of sitting back and trying to get a feel for what exactly the procedures are and what we do, but I'm just getting a little bit concerned that we may be straying into what scrutiny committees do. And I know Reece made the point that if we include all the papers of everything the scrutiny committees look at, and the vast majority of elected members that are already on those scrutiny committees, we wouldn't just be getting reports of hundreds of pages long. They'd probably run into four figures, to be honest. But I'm just slightly concerned that we might end up duplicating the work and re-scrutinising what scrutiny has already done. The scrutiny committees are there obviously for a reason. The policies and documents are gone through with a fine-tooth comb by those committees, and I'm just a little bit concerned that, unless I've misunderstood, that we might be straying into the realms of maybe duplicating that work and re-scrutinising things that have already been scrutinised. I fully agree with what Lisa said about supplying the links so the documents are available for information and to help with this committee. But I'd be very concerned if we start looking at maybe re-scrutinising things that have already been done by those bodies. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor. I think you've got to remember that three of us are not members of the council. We are not elected representatives. We don't have the briefings you have in different places. We do not have, whilst we can have access to the papers via the public website, we don't have access in any other shape or form. Whilst I understand what you say there, we're not here to scrutinise the decisions or which have been made. If the decision's been made by the council, then obviously, as long as they've been made in accordance with law and the right governance process, etc., then that's what we need to look at. But if there are any issues which clearly Norma's picked some points up, it's just that she needs the assurance that that issue has gone through the right process. And provided the assurance can be given, then that's it. We're not here to re-look at things. That's a matter for you, the elected representatives of the council, to take a decision on. So I think that's where we come from. Yeah. And the other issue is lots of the documents, as you quite like to say, public documents. So as long as we get the hyperlinks and clarification, then in my view, that's the way to go forward on it. But people need to remember that three of us are not elected representatives of the council, so we don't get as much information as yourselves on occasions. So I think we've got a way forward, Reece, haven't we, in regards to the links and such like. Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because when we're working in the authority and we're all involved in so many different things, we have a level of understanding of things that are going on. Actually, one of the benefits of having three lay members who aren't part of that is this annual governance statement is about providing assurance to the public that we are doing things properly. So if the three lay members are not seeing the evidence in there, the evidence isn't in there to show that. So I think it's a fair point. And I think actually that will give us an opportunity as well around making sure when we've actually said something in here, there's a link to the evidence to prove that we've actually done that thing as well. So no issues with that. We can go back and look at that. Yeah, thank you. This is a learning exercise for us all, and we're here to ensure that Newport is the very best in regards to what it delivers in service delivery terms. So hopefully, that's where we're all coming from. Norma, does that deal with the issues you've raised?
Sorry. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, because I'm also picking up from this document that some of the actions are unspecific, and some are not actually addressing the actual issue. And I can give you examples of those. Pages 208 to 210, we talk about reviewing, but there's no concrete action to address the recommendations. And I wasn't particularly assured on the management performance issue. What else did I find? Yes, and I did question on page 223 where the actions update really addressed Estin's recommendations, which were to develop information sharing protocols and procedures. Sorry? Pardon? That's Nick's report. Nick's report, sorry. Well, I moved on, have I? Oh, I beg your pardon. Yeah. Right, I beg your pardon. Wait a minute, yeah. I'm just trying to think where I'm finished here. Right. Oh, yes, sorry, beg your pardon. I did this a couple of days ago, so, okay. But I think it's important then, going back, that the actions actually relate very much to the issue.
Yeah, I think, Norma, you got the assurance from Rhys that if you pose those questions or clarification points to the team in regards to the AGS, then obviously they'll, Rhys has given the assurance they'll review it, look at it again, and if it needs to be tweaked, I'm sure Rhys, the team, and Paul will do that. So thanks for that. Don, did you?
Yeah, before I ask my question, Chair, I'd just like to say I'm very pleased I'm not an elected member, and I'm really pleased I don't sit on any scrutiny committees. I'm just one of these ignorant lay people. But my question for Rhys is on page 173, where you've got under engaging the individual with citizens and users and service users effectively. It says here democratic services support 2 ward meeting cycles per year. On the basis that, let's say, there's 51 councillors, is that saying that democratic services are supporting 102 ward meetings per year?
Yes, there are significantly more than 102 ward meetings a year, though, because members will have ward meetings without the support of democratic services, but there are 2 specifically.
So democratic services are supporting 2 ward meetings in each ward per year. Great. My second question, although I tend to think that maybe in the ward that I live we might be shortchanged, but I'll go back and check. And also in terms of on page 174, I just thought where you've got under the strengths identified and improvements, you've got cost of living events, and then 2 job fairs, and you've got volunteering and community group projects and initiative. I just was going to ask how many cost of living events and how many volunteering community projects. The reason I was going to ask was because I suspect there's going to be quite a few, and I just think it would strengthen the report.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. So one of the things we'll also do is we'll go through and we'll add in additional detail to those bits. I'm going to come back to what you previously asked, though. The offer of 2 ward meetings is available through DEM services, but not all wards have those. You are quite right.
Chair, can I thank Rhys for clarifying it's the offer? I've noted that.
Yeah, that's okay.
I will make that amendment in the report as well.
Thank you, Don. Are there any other questions from members? No. Any comments? I think lots of comments have already been made. No, we go to the recommendation. I think if we have a similar recommendation to the one we had for the annual draft statement of accounts, that we note the draft annual governance statement, and that if any members wish to make any comments, have any questions or seek points of clarification, they do so by the 31st of August. And then we will pick up any outstanding issues in the September committee. If members are happy with that, is someone prepared to move that, please? Thank you, Don. Can I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Howells. Anyone against? No, thank you. Rhys, can I thank you and the team for that? Because I think that was very useful discussion and dialogue, and hopefully it will get us to where we really need to be, just with some additional information. So just say thank you for that, and thank you for members for your contribution on that.
Yeah, and just on that, Chair, just a massive thanks to Paul Flint for all the work he's done on this, putting it together as well.
Paul, well done.
Thank you, Chair.
As always. Next item 7, is the Audit Wales and Regulatory Bodies published reports, December 23 to June 24. Who's taking us through this?
Thanks, Chair. So I'll give Rhys a little bit of a break on this one, and I'll introduce. So we would like to introduce, as you rightly said, the Audit Wales and Regulatory Bodies reports for the period from December 2023 to June 2024. So these specifically obviously cover the Audit Wales, Estyn and Care Inspectorate Wales. So Governance and Audit Committee is asked to consider the contents of the report. Paul will run through the report in a little more detail in a second or two, and the regulatory activities completed, and where any recommendations have been raised through those inspections, etc., Audit Wales work, that Council is working towards taking the necessary actions.
Thank you, Sean. Paul?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So just to explain to the committee how this process works. So this report includes the work and the activity of Care Inspectorate Wales, Audit Wales and Estin. Online today we have representatives from Audit Wales who will happily answer any questions in relation to the work which they've undertaken during the last 6 months. There is one particular point to also note, is that we've also included His Majesty's Inspector of Probation and their review of Youth Justice Service, which the report was released recently. So that's been added to this report as well. The other thing as well, just for members to note, is that if there's any detailed questions in relation to specific areas, we can't answer them because we're not those experts in those areas, so we'll take those back to the relevant officers to provide that response and then respond accordingly back to the committee as necessary. And yeah, we're quite happy to take any questions then from the committee around the reports.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for that. Obviously, it's quite comprehensive, so and it certainly picks up all the recommendations that have come out from previous reports and the actions being taken. Any questions from members?
I was on the wrong one. That I
No,
think, so sorry, like to make in relation to this was that one of my concerns on this was that members had not completed their cyber training. There were 10 members, was it? And are we doing anything about that? Because cyber security is a really important issue for all bodies now. That was one point.
Page 213.
Yeah, 213. 213 to 210, I think.
Do you want, Chair, shall I respond to that? So I think a couple of bits Sean can give, I suspect, can give some more detail on this, because he was itching to go for the mic then. So prior to having access to any of the systems, all members and all staff have to go through that training. So this is refresher training on an ongoing basis. So it's a pretty high level. The level of risk associated with members, we have to remember that the level of risk associated with members is significantly lower than staff members, because members have access essentially to the email system. And we have various mechanisms, which I won't go into the details of here, but we've got various mechanisms in place to ensure that if anybody does go into an email and click on the wrong link, that they are removed from the network before any damage is done. Right, so there's a low risk and obviously a high take-up, but there are also a series of measures we've got in place now to improve that as well.
Okay.
Sorry, could I just come in as well and just confirm to Norman that the committee has had a session on cyber in the past, but we are doing regular follow-ups regardless anyway, so just to add on top of what Risa said.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean.
And then there was page 208 to 210. There was talk about reviewing, but I thought we needed a bit more in terms of concrete actions there other than reviewing.
Sorry, Chair, can I just clarify that? So page 210, was it?
208 to 210.
208 to 210, so more specifics on the recommendations, yeah? Okay.
And then, and then on page 223, I wondered whether the action update really addressed Estin's recommendations, which is about developing information sharing protocols and procedures. I couldn't quite relate it. And 228, I thought that was good, but it doesn't relate directly again to the recommendation, because I think we need to be really clear when we're saying what we're doing, how it relates to the recommendation. I think the same on 230, there was no mention of pastoral support in the action.
I mean, we'll take that back to the education services and feed that back to them.
I think that would be a bit, yeah, it's just making sure it's very clear that it relates to the recommendation. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Norma. Are there any other questions from anyone? I can't see, so...
No questions, Gareth, this end.
Lovely, thank you. Can I just raise a question? It's on page 207, I think, which is the planning issue that was done, and it's recommendation 5, which concerns the governance arrangements. Obviously, there's an action there. I've just wanting to know whether we can see the planning protocol and code of practice before it gets issued.
Chair, Tracy,
yes.
Tracy Brooks is actually online, just in case any questions of that came up. So, Tracy, I don't know if you can answer that.
Hi, Tracy.
Thanks. Hi. Thanks, Rhys. Thanks, Chair. Yes, I mean, obviously, what we're looking to do is to consult with our members and our planning committee members to ensure that, obviously, it's delivering their expectations. But we can certainly bring a draft back for your consideration. Clearly, it'll go through the relevant scrutiny from the council side, but I don't see any issues with bringing it back to you.
No, that's lovely. Thank you, Tracy. The only reason I say that is... and I don't have to declare an interest, I think. I've got one of the other councils bringing their policy back because, again, it was I think it was a national report done by Audit Wales. So one of my other committees have got exactly the same issue around their protocol, not the same issues. And I've asked for it, given that we are the Governance and Audit Committee, and it's a governance issue specifically, that we see the draft report before it goes anywhere. So if you could do that, I'd be extremely grateful.
No problem. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions from members? Any comments? Dom?
Yeah, I've just got a comment on page 210 in the report overview where it's got the number 3, the recommendation. And one of the lines that it's there is it should be noted that all local authorities receive the same recommendations from Audit Wales. I just wanted to make the comment that's a really useful note when you're reading through that because it gives a good sense of context. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Lovely. Thanks, Tom. Okay, if there are no other comments, then the recommendation is we're asked to consider the contents of the report. So I think we note the contents of the report and regulatory activity completed. And where recommendations have been raised, the council is taking the necessary action. And if we could have a second recommendation that the planning protocol and code of practice be brought back to Governance and Audit Committee in draft once it's completed. If someone's prepared to move, please. Thank you, Jason. Can I have a seconder? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Lots of people. Thank you, Councillor Howells. Councillor Reynolds, I did see your hand go up as well, so thank you very much for that. Anyone against? No, thank you very much. Then the next item is the detailed audit plan. Is that you, Bethan, or?
I'm going to kick off and pass over to Bethan as we go, if that's okay.
Sorry, yes, sorry.
No problem. Okay, so we present to you today our detailed audit plan. We'll take it as read, but we'll just take you through a few key areas of the plan. So it sets out what we're going to undertake, when we're going to do it, by whom, and how much it will cost you. Okay, so I just wanted to skip first of all to page 266, which details a bit more about our financial audit and the way we undertake it with regards to materiality. So it's just reminding members that our audit is undertaken to identify and correct material misstatements. So that's those that might otherwise mislead the user of the accounts. The materiality for our planning work, which we've undertaken to date, is calculated using a percentage of 1% of gross expenditure. And that's 6.06 million for the core account and 6.19 million for the group accounts, because obviously we audit both accounts. Okay, so those matters that we will report to you are above 5% of materiality, and that's referred to as our trivial level. We do have some other areas of specific interest, which we also use a lower level of materiality to, because they are of more interest to the reader of the account. So those are with regards to the remuneration report disclosures and the related party disclosures. Okay. So following our financial statements planning work, we've identified some risks, and these are set out in Exhibit 1 and 2. Exhibit 1 details the risk of management override. This risk is present in all entities, so it's not something specific to Newport. It's something the ISAs require us to do, and we cannot rebut that risk. So that programme of work is set for all entities. Exhibit 2 sets out some other areas of audit focus we've identified from our planning work. So that being the valuation of pension funds net liability and how that's presented in the account and disclosed. Related party disclosures on the back of some amendments to previous audited accounts, and also group accounts as well. Okay, so I wasn't proposing to go through those in any detail, but happy to take some questions at the end. I'll hand over to Bethan now, and she'll pass it back to me for the fee.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. So regarding the performance audit work for the rest of the year, you'll see that we've got our assurance and risk assessment work, which is constantly ongoing in the background. As part of that piece of work, we'll speak to various officers, senior officers, look through documents and use that to inform our future planning and any immediate feedback that we are going to give. For local work for this year, we have penciled in a review of environmental health services. We haven't scoped that piece of work yet. It's a little bit early, but we will work with the council to scope that. As always, that local piece of work is flexible, so if anything else does come between now and then, which we feel is a higher risk or needs to be prioritised in year, then potentially we would swap that out. But of course, we liaise with the council if we go to do that. So I'll just pass back to Helen now, unless anyone's got any questions on the performance audits.
We'll deal with some questions when we deal with once we finish the report, if that's okay, Bethan.
Yeah, it's fine, Chair.
Yeah, that's fine. So just a reminder also, we do certify a number of grant claims and returns. We heard about the housing benefit subsidy claim earlier today. We also audit the teachers' pensions claim and the non-domestic rates claim, and also some NHS money transfers as well. So there are those going on later in the year. And we do have our statutory audit functions that we're required to undertake as well. So moving on to page 273, we set out the proposed fee for this year, which is being discussed with officers. The increase this year is 6.4%. So you will see that coming through the fees below. The grant certification work isn't quite, well, it is 6.4%, but that's based on an estimate of what we think the outturn will be this year. So that may be subject to change. Okay, our planning is always ongoing, and we're not sure what we will find during the audit. So if there are any matters that come to our attention that require additional audit work, we'll of course raise this with officers and come back to the committee as necessary. Exhibit 6 sets out the audit team for the year. A few names on there will be familiar to you. There's quite a lot of continuity from the prior year, so that's really good. I think I'm the only new member of the team, so thanks for having me. And then the latter pages are just some information for you that we set out to read in your own time. So happy for any questions to come to myself or Bethan.
Thanks, Helen. Greatly appreciated. Any questions from anyone? No?
No questions,
John?
Gareth, in the chamber.
No, okay. I've just got a couple of questions. First one is, again, a couple of the other councils which I sit on, they've had I think they've had one of their thematic reports not taken forward, and I didn't know whether there was any intention for any of the thematic reports to be not undertaken for Newport. I think that there are issues about obviously capacity within Audit Wales, and I didn't know whether there is any work that you're not proposing to undertake this year.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that, Chair. So I think what you're referring to will be a letter which was sent from the Auditor General around removing the workforce thematic for the next year for 24-25. So
Yeah.
the reason for that is you're absolutely right, capacity issue and a backlog, and to allow us some time to get through the other work that we've got in trends. So that is what you're referring to, and there you should have a copy of a letter from the Auditor General for Wales outlining that.
Okay, because again, it's very important that the fee may reduce, given that you're not carrying out that piece of work. But we wait and see. I think Bethan is the position, isn't it?
Well, I think it says in the letter that you likely get a refund because that piece of work isn't going ahead as part of the fee. Yeah.
Yeah. Not very. We're likely to get a refund, but you never know. There we are.
Depends what else crops up in the year.
Yeah, well, I never. The second question is in regards to Fire and Rescue Service, which is the report that you're also undertaking. I keep raising this issue because obviously there's now got a column to say that the representatives who sit on the Fire and Rescue Service were sent out a questionnaire. Mm-hmm. I think it actually needed to go further than that because it is the authority that is paying for fire and rescue via a levy, and the view of an elected member, with all respect, compared to the view of the council, may be completely different. And I know there were some undercurrents in regards to certainly the senior members of the authority in regards to fire and rescue, and I'm just making sure that you've got balance in regards to what comes out from the council. So I don't believe the council's been asked for a comment, but the elected representative who's nominated was.
Yeah, so from my understanding of that, Chair, bearing in mind I wasn't involved directly in that review, I think all members, and I think it was former members of the Fire and Rescue Authorities, were sent surveys to complete to sort of give back their perspectives. And then I think, so as a result, local members from each council would have been engaged. But I think the point that you're referring to, we didn't explore the financial position or the funding model as part of this review. So within the scoping of the project, I don't think it was felt that we needed to go that far because it wasn't part of the scope. So
yeah, I think that's flawed.
Right.
But there we are. That's my view.
Yeah.
I don't know what the view is of Rees, because obviously it's a council matter. It's not an individual member matter of the council. It's a council issue. The member represents the council, or is the nominated representative of the council. But again, I think, in my view, there needed to be a view taken from the council itself. Rees, I don't know whether. Maybe I'm over-egging this point, but I think there was in my view, there's a fundamental flaw.
Hi, Chair, it's Rees.
Hi, Rees.
I don't think I've seen the scope, so I couldn't probably give you much of a sort of view or a comment on that, or any of the correspondence around it. I think we had a brief conversation the other day about it, Bethan, didn't we? But I think I'd have to see that before I had a view. I think there's probably a broader issue at the moment, Chair, as well, around, it isn't just an Audit Wales one, where there's a lot of stuff going on around the constitution of fire authorities and actually how they are. Yeah. And you are right in that respect. There is a difference between the views of those members who've been co-opted onto those fire authorities and actually the view the council might take it. But that is in relation to this, because I haven't seen the specs, so I haven't really got a comment on it. But if Beth can get it and send it to me, I'll have a look.
Yeah, sorry, Chair.
Sorry, Beth. I apologise. Sorry, I shouldn't interrupt. You carry on.
All I was going to say is the review was, from my knowledge, the view was very much a review of the governance arrangements of the Fire and Rescue Authority and what those arrangements looked like, how they were developed and how effective they were. So I think that's it. So in that respect, it was quite a focused review. I will take your comments and feed them back to the team, and when available, I'll make sure that the scope and the final report is shared wherever possible, and then maybe we can reflect back on what that looks like and whether you still hold that opinion or not, and then we can feed it back to the scoping team.
No, thanks for that. And I think it was reaffirmed then by Reece that council's view may be completely different to the elected representatives' view, if you see what I mean. So,
yeah.
So that's the concern and the governance of it, because it's obviously it's not a joint, it's a separate body. And again, obviously, if you'd ask my view is there should be independent members on the fire and rescue service. It shouldn't just be elected representatives, but that's my personal view. But no, if you could, that would be grateful. Good. And the last question I've got, which is a question Sarah was supposed to be responding to me on it, is I want to know what is the senior public service, which is the thematic review you're doing?
Yeah, so just to clarify, Chair, I'm just checking, but I believe Sarah has already responded. She responded on the 4th of June to your query. Okay. So that should have been sent on to you. Apologies if it hasn't found its way. Let me know and I'll make sure that it gets sent again.
Yeah, no, I raised it last week, Bethan, because I still haven't had it. I don't know why she sent it, but I didn't know what it meant. It says the senior public service.
Yeah, so it's still in scoping stages, but at the moment, the Senior Public Service Review will be building on other work that's been going on within the public sector workforce issues, and I've got a small description here which says that it will focus on issues around senior leadership, potentially encompassing issues around pay, secondments, performance management, etc., etc. So I'm happy to put that in an email for you as well, so you can. But again, it's very, very early scoping days at the moment.
Maybe it needs to say senior leadership in the public service, not the senior public service. Do you know?
That's fine.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all. No, that's okay.
No
Thank you very much for that clarity. Okay. Sorry. Are there any other questions? Any comments? No. You'll see the recommendation, hopefully. I think it's the note, I think. Sorry, I can't find the recommendation. Is it the note, Reece?
Yeah, I don't think there's a.
There's not a covering report.
No, there's no covering report for it. I think it is just that is the audit. That's Audit Wales audit plan for the year. So, is there any comments on it really?
Yeah. So, if the recommendation is to note the contents of the report, someone prepared to move, please. Thank you, Jason. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Norma. Or thank you, Mark. Very kind. Anyone object? Nope. Thank you very much. The next item is the work programme. Reece, are you taking us or?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. So for noting and any additions to the work programme. So the next meeting's on the 26th of September. You've got a couple of call-ins for that based on the internal audit reviews. So asylum seekers in pressed accounts and private sector housing. Anything? I don't think we missed.
No.
I'm just going to turn around and ask Laura this. Statement of the accounts gets signed off before the 26th of September. So are they going to come back here for any more comment? No. All right. Sorry. So yes, Chair. So if there's any additions or comments on the work programme?
Okay. Any questions, anyone? I know there were items which Don raised in the last committee, which were picked up, I think, in minute 10.7, I think. Have they been picked up, Don?
I've no idea.
We'll pick it up. I'll pick it up.
Yeah, you raised two issues in the last committee in regards to matters. I think they were raised in minute 10.7. They said they would have come to this committee, but obviously if they're not at this committee, I would have thought they'll come to September. Are there any other questions or comments from anyone?
Yeah, Chair, just I'll make a note,
Yes,
please.
Jason?
My absence for the 26th, please. I'm on holiday.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Okay, if there are no other... Oh, Don?
Gareth, yeah, I'm just looking at 10.7 with the, so that's a call-in, isn't it? Yeah, that is under control.
Yeah, that's on the agenda. For
okay, good, thank you, Don. Thanks for that clarity. If there are no other questions or comments, can I have someone to we note the forward work programme? Thank you, Don. Can I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Mark. Anyone against? No, that's carried. Obviously, we've got the date of the next meeting. Before I finish the meeting, I get shot if I don't mention it. Democratic Services are still awaiting some pro formas in regards to the, I think it's the training needs assessment. Leanne, is that correct? Reece, I think that's the issue. We need to get those in as soon as possible. So if members could return those to Leanne and the Democratic Services team as soon as possible, that would be wonderful. So thank you for that. And as we said, date of the next meeting is 25th September. So that being the last item on the agenda, can I just thank everyone for attending today? Thank everyone for their contribution. Thanks for the colleagues from Audit Wales. Thanks for the officers' contribution. And I now close the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.